Most people's life stories are lost forever, but yours doesn't have to be. For this episode of Life Stories, I am so pleased and honored to have Bill Symmes from Cornerstone here in Milford. Bill, to start with, I'd like for you to tell us about your early life, where you were born, what year, your siblings and parents, and anything about your early childhood that relates to your life.
Okay, I'll do my best. First of all, I was born in 1916 in the month of May in Franklin, Massachusetts. And I was the youngest of 10 children.
10?
And I was the only surviving boy, so I had 8 sisters. We lived on a farm, a working farm. We had 10 milking cows. We had 200 or 300 poultry, and
How
my
big
folks
was
were
the farm?
oh,
How large was the farm?
30 acres. It wasn't
30.
a large one, but it was moderately, effective for our
that
operation. Yeah. And I enjoyed being on the farm. There wasn't many kids to play with, and there was only 3 houses in a mile-long stretch. So I went to school. I started school at 6 years old in 1922, and I went to the first grade. There wasn't a kindergarten in those days, so you started right off at the first grade. And I wasn't a good student to this respect. It was a great shock for me to have something so set up so nicely. And I ran away from school twice. And I had to walk 3 miles to home, and I did, from the school. And then after 2 episodes, the school teacher got pretty wise to me, so she wouldn't let me run away again. But I did all
Why
right.
did you run away? What was it about school?
I missed being home and the animals, and I wasn't used to a lot of people.
Oh.
And it was kind of strange for me coming from a farm with hardly any strangers. But I soon adapted, and I went through the grade schools in Franklin. And I graduated high school in 1934. I was 18 years old. And there was bad times at that particular time. And I was the only boy, and I was the youngest. And my folks were not very young. So I decided the best thing I could do was go to work and make some money to help out the family, which I did. The first job I had was in a textile mill in Franklin, and I got on the 3rd shift from 11 at night to 7 in the morning, and I learned what it was like to earn a living. And I stayed there about 2 years. And then I got a better job. I went to Bird Machine Company in South Walpole, and I worked in the machine shop there for 16 years. And I learned the machinist trade, which came in handy later on in life in my schedule. And
What did they make at Bird? What was the...
well, they had a couple of lines of machinery that they did a lot. One was in the paper pulp business, making machinery for the paper pulp And then they got into centrifugal, centrifugal, and they had machines that were adapted to coal mines and all kind of mining operations, and that was really the breadwinner for the company.
Oh, that made the money. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, right.
Yeah.
Because coal used to be our main source of fuel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I worked there 16 years, and as I say, I did learn the machinist trade, which came in handy later in life. And after that, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, he was an electrical engineer, and he approached my wife and myself and said he'd like to start a business of manufacturing mechanical, electromechanical switching devices. And he asked me if we would get in with him. And I said, sure. I was very anxious to do something other than machine shop.
Change, yeah.
And we tooled up. I worked at it part-time and kept my job at Bird Machine for over a year. But I was putting in part-time in the evenings and so forth. And what we did is it was a new company, and we started off in the basement of my wife and I's house. And
Oh, really?
We had 5 people besides ourselves, and we outgrew that opportunity. So
Now, isn't that what they originally started with, computers? Those.
Well, they were electromechanical switching devices, known as relays.
Oh, relays.
Relays, timers, solenoids, and I wasn't acquainted with that particular thing, but I soon had to learn it, and so we outgrew my basement, and I had the land. I had 30 acres. I took over the old farm property, so I built a.
From your parents, were they alive then when you took that over, or no?
No, my mother and father were gone.
Oh, okay.
And
so you took over. You inherited that property.
yes, I did. Yes,
oh, okay.
I did.
Yeah. Because you
And,
were their only living son, right?
What's that?
You were their only living son.
That's right.
Right.
All the rest of the family, the children were girls. I had 8 sisters.
Right. Okay. So you took over the farm for your electrical
Yeah.
engineering.
So we got busy right away, and we needed more space.
Uh-huh.
So I figured that I would build the building, and being a new business, I was very cautious. So instead of an industrial building, I put up a large ranch house. I figuring that if the company didn't make out, I could convert it into a house and get my money back.
That was smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started hiring, and my brother-in-law didn't want to run the business on a day-to-day basis. He wanted to do the engineering and the sales.
Oh, great.
And I ended up managing the day-to-day operation. So we,
What a great team.
yeah,
Yeah.
it worked out pretty good too.
Yeah. And how long did you have that business?
A little over 18 years.
18 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And you worked 16, so you were getting up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the initial building that I put up, we had about 20 or 22 people in it, and we got more business than we could handle in that space. So I put up a second building to the rear, more of an industrial type building, and my brother-in-law got a lot of business for us, and I ran the business on a daily basis. I hired people, and sometimes I broke them in on the job myself, and my wife ran the office.
Oh, wow.
And,
What a team.
as I say, we ran it for 18 years. And at the peak, just before we sold it, I had 84 people on my payroll.
Oh, gee.
Mostly women, because it was a small item. They could handle small items.
They had small hands.
And they, in those days, there was a lot of soldering.
Uh-huh.
There was a lot of, we had to make resistance coils for every relay we made. And there was a lot of coil winding. There was small machines to run to do the assembly of the parts. But anyway, it worked out good. And for 18 years we had I enjoyed it really. I had a great time. I hired all the people. And after 18 years, there was a little family disturbance, so we decided to sell the company.
Uh-huh.
And we sold it, and my wife and I had taken real estate business tests, and we both were really, brokers, licensed brokers.
Licensed brokers.
So we both went up to Route 9 in Natick, which was a very busy area, and I stayed with one company for 7 years, and I sold a lot of real estate, Framingham, Natick, Marlboro.
Is that when they had the Campanelli ranches come to Framingham?
Oh, yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
And yeah.
Yes, they did, and I've sold 2 or 3 of them. And my wife worked with another company, but she also did real estate sales.
Did you compete with each other to see who could know?
No.
No,
we didn't, not in the least. It was extremely busy in those days, especially the younger people that were interested in buying property.
Was this after the war or after what year was this? What years were this?
This was about 1977.
77. Oh,
Yeah.
no. Okay, so.
And I found that real estate was much to my liking. In fact, you meet so many different people, and you take them out and show them property. And if you're fortunate, you get a sale. And also you can go out and list property, put the real estate on the market, and when it sells, you get a good commission.
Right.
Well, listing as well as selling. So I did that for 7 years in Natick. And my wife and I were talking about buying some property on Cape Cod, and we made up our mind that we would go on. But we got a 1.5 year extension in our plan. A friend of mine who ran Dean Real Estate in Franklin, I got to know him pretty well. And he had a business, a real estate office in Millis on Route 109. And he said, Bill, he says, would you be interested in running that for a 1.5 years, 2 years, you and your wife? And I said, well, maybe it would be a good thing for me to learn the management of a real estate office. So we ran that. We got a couple of other brokers, so there was 4 of us in the office. And we sold pretty good out of that. It was a good experience. And then we...
How long did you do that?
About 2 years.
2 years,
Yeah.
okay.
And I did it as a favor, for John Dean, really. And it was good. I got the experience of running a real estate office. Then we moved to Cape Cod, and I picked up a piece of land in Howich, and I bought the land. It was about 1 acre, and it was not too far from Chatham. It was in East Howich. And I had a new house built.
Brand new from, oh, wow.
Yeah, I interviewed a builder that had an ad in the paper, and he was just the type of a man that I was looking for. He was middle-aged, he had a lot of experience, and he had good character. So I hired him to build the house, and we were very happy with it. And we lived in that house for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
Again, 18 years. And on Cape Cod, both of us got selling real estate.
Again? Oh, wow.
Oh, yes, oh, yes. We sold a lot of real estate. And I covered quite a big territory on the Cape. And my wife was very, very ambitious, and she liked to get involved in things. And she had a unique job in real estate sales. She worked for a builder and a developer in New Orleans.
Uh-huh.
And what this man would do, he'd go out and he'd buy acreage.
Uh-huh.
He'd put in all the utilities, the roads, the electricity, and so forth. And she did the selling.
Wow.
And she was well qualified. And she kept that for 5, 6, 7 years when we were on the Cape. And I got involved in selling in Howard. There was a new development of, I think it was 22 houses. And I got acquainted with the fellow that was in charge of sales. And I got myself a job selling new houses. And that worked out good too. I had a lot of fun. And also, my wife and I got involved in town affairs. I got on well, first of all, I joined the senior coalition, and I worked at that and raised money for their operation and their
Was that on
programs.
the Cape? On the Cape?
Cape Cod, yes,
Yeah.
Howard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and let's see now. I got on a building committee for the town of Howard. They were putting up a very large building that would include the youth recreation office and a very nice game room, and it had a double gymnasium. We had a kitchen fully equipped, and we had a dining room, and the dining room also served as a meeting room, and the senior center was in that one building.
Oh.
And I was on the building committee of that, sort of representing the senior population, because I had been working with the seniors. And I think that took care of the Cape. My wife and I both played golf, and we played a lot of golf in Howard, which was fun, and I met a lot of nice people. And then we moved back to Franklin because I had the 30 acres of land.
Oh, your farmland.
In the farmland, and I wanted to do something with it. So what I did, I hired an engineer to lay out 25 building lots. And I named it Symmes Acres. And it was 25 nice building lots. And I put in all the utilities, the natural gas, and the streets, of course, and sidewalks, and the whole business. And I found a builder that was very, very, had a wonderful reputation. He lived in another town, and he and I got together, and I sold him the whole property, the 25 lots. And he built very nice houses. They were all colonials, two-story, with two-car attached garage. And I took one of the lots and built myself my wife and I a new building, a new house.
A new colonial?
I was 81 years old then.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you built a house.
Yeah,
Wow.
I built a new house at 81. And we lived there for 17 years. And we had a lot of fun. We both got involved with town affairs. My wife was on the Franklin School Committee for, I think it was eight and a half years. And I was on the Industrial Development Commission for 15 years. And towards the end of that period, she started having problems. And she kind of lost her memory, for one thing. And I sold the property. I sold the house. And first, we moved to a very nice place in Franklin. It was brand new when we moved into it. It was a 3-story brick building, and they had 2 elevators, and they had about 150 people in there. And we lived in there for a year and a half, 2 years. And my wife got sicker, and she passed away while we were living there. So then I moved into Cornerstone in Milford.
Right.
And I'm there now.
Yeah, it's
So
lovely.
that's about
it's very,
the highlights of my career.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what about children? Do you have children? Do you want
Yes, I have 1 son and 3 daughters. My son lives in Washington, D.C. He's been there since he got out of college, working for the government. He's retired now. And my oldest is a girl, and she lives in Franklin, and first of all, my wife and I sent all of them to college, and they got their master's degrees. Alana got to her, my son and my oldest daughter graduated from Tufts University in Medford. And she got her master's at Columbia University in New York.
Oh, wow.
And my son got a master's in economics in state of Washington, University of Washington. And right from that education point, he got a job with the federal government. And he retired here a few years ago. And he only had one job in his life, and that was the U.S. government.
And what did he do for the U.S. government?
He was in they put him in the Department of Transportation.
Oh.
And he kind of was in the economic side of it. And but along in his career, they found out that he was quite talented in talking to people. So they had a job that they had so many countries to work with that they wanted him to go around to each country and make sure that their operation was going good. And he did that for the last 7 or 8 years. And he traveled to all the countries, really.
Wow, what an exciting life.
Yeah.
And what about your other child? You mentioned 2.
And I had 3 daughters, and my oldest daughter that graduated from Columbia, she went to, what is the name of it? Hong Kong, China.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she got a job. She wanted to travel. So somehow or other, she got a job with a magazine that was being published in Hong Kong, and involved a lot of travel. So she traveled a lot of the Far East, taking pictures and getting stories. And she met a man who was from Pittsburgh, and they got married in Hong Kong, China.
Oh,
Yeah.
huh.
And
Did you go and attend the wedding or no? Did
no,
you and your
no,
wife?
No, we didn't. They got married in Hong Kong,
Oh,
and he was from Pittsburgh. He worked for a mining company. He was a salesman, and they lived in Pittsburgh for several years. Then he got transferred to California, to San Francisco.
mm-hmm.
So they lived in San Francisco for, I think, 14 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And that was my oldest daughter, and my youngest daughter, she graduated from Northeastern, and she got her master's in a college, in not Wellesley College, but another college. The name kind of laid my mind.
Well,
But she got a master's
Babson.
Babson, that was it. She got a master's in mechanical and electrical engineering.
Wow. Okay. Well, listen, we only have a few more minutes,
Yeah.
and I wanted to ask you a couple of things. One, since you've had such an exciting and interesting, wonderful life, is there anyone in your life that you can point to that was like a teacher or someone that influenced you in becoming such a...
Well, I put a lot of credit to my folks,
Your
my father
parents?
and mother. They were people that were very interested in the country and things that were going on. And I kind of took a lot of their advice, and it turned out to be helpful for me. So I got to give them a lot of credit.
Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting. That
Yeah.
it's. I think when you have great parents, I had good parents. It does set you on a
Oh, it
trip.
does.
Yeah.
It's a great help.
And the other thing is, since you've lived so long and you're so healthy, what do you attribute? Did you have special diets, or is it just your outgoing, great personality that you think?
I don't have any special diet. I eat what I want to, and I go see my doctor twice a year, every 6 months.
Yeah.
And I went the last time I went a couple of months ago, and he checked me out, and everything was fine. My lungs, and he does blood tests on me, on all my blood that he wants, and he says, "You're good for a long time, Bill."
Well, wonderful. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, listen, in wrapping up tonight, it's really been a wonderful interview with you. I feel like you've had such a fantastic life, and I know everyone would love to have had as interesting a life and lived as long as you do. You're so lucky you have a great mind.
Well, it was a very interesting life for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Tell me what you like, what you want from me. If it's on tonight,